Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council for January 10th, 2023. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Odekirk.
Present.
Hanson.
Present.
Matsdorf.
Here.
Gilson.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Shilsky. Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is a pledge. Please stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Before I start, I would like to make a typo correction in the approval of the consent agenda. When we, on item A, approve minutes of the meetings held Tuesday, December 13th, and strike out December 27th, we did not have that meeting. So just so we get that in there ahead of time. Now, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second, Matsdorf.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, we did have a meeting on the 27th. It was a special meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that because I didn't remember the special. That's right. Okay. There I go. First mistake this year. Whole year is shot.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would just ask the minutes reflect my attendance at the December 13th meeting as well.
Okay. First and second with those adjustments,
That's fine.
still say okay? Okay, good. With that, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Matsdorf.
Yes.
Odekirk.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Shilsky.
Yes.
Gilson.
Yeah.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, the audience portion, where we ask people to be sign in and be recognized by the chair. This evening, no one signed in to address the council. We certainly encourage you to sign in. That's where you do the talking and we do the listening. Item 5, no items were removed from the consent agenda. Moving on to item 6, interviews and potential selection of new District 4 alderperson with term ending in April of '24. I have asked our city administrator to lead this discussion, and he has some opening comments, and then we do have some basic questions that he will ask of the candidates. So with that, Tim?
Sure. So due to the resignation of Alder Wilson, we have two openings, or we have an opening on Common Council. We had 2 applicants apply for that position within the deadline. So they are here tonight. I put together a list of basic interview questions. The mayor asked me to read these. You are more than welcome to add additional questions, ask follow-up questions. This just has to be done in an open session. So the applicants are here tonight. We did have a question prior to bringing the applicants from a council member, and a question for Attorney Fieber with regards to council member being on RDA or Plan Commission. If someone is appointed to the Common Council who is already on RDA or Plan Commission, they would have to resign that. Is that correct?
I have not looked at the language for the RDA. The Plan Commission provides for 1 alderperson, and it's my opinion that the intent of that is to have 1 alderperson. So if we did have someone who's currently serving on the Plan Commission become a member of the Common Council, then that person would be transitioning out of their Plan Commission position because they would no longer be a citizen member.
Thank you, Crystal. So just providing that heads up prior to bringing our candidates forward. So Mayor, would you like to make the selection on
you.
who goes first?
The first candidate, we appreciate the interest in the District 4 alderperson seat, is Mike Penquitz. And Mike, welcome. You're on the agenda later, but we'll get to that later. Any opening comments that you want to make at all? If you want to, fine. If you say, go for it and put yourself in the hot seat, we'll go through some council questions and go from there.
No, I would like to fill this position,
Okay,
simply put.
okay. Tim, why don't you ask the basic questions, and then the council can chime in anytime after that and have additional ones.
Sounds good. And I think just to add to my opening remarks, the plan is to do the interviews at the council meeting tonight. We'll do a selection at the next meeting, and then a swearing-in ceremony would be at the following meeting. That way, if the selected candidate wanted to have family attend, they would be able to do so. So, all right, Mike, please do.
We can't decide tonight?
So we could decide tonight. There's
I would be in favor of
no
deciding
restriction.
tonight.
Sure, so it was just a discussion between the mayor and myself as the way to probably make it a little less awkward for the candidates. So it's obviously, it's up to the council. We did talk to Crystal about that prior to the meeting, so.
Because I think in the past, we have selected them that night. I know Alder Hildebrand was selected that night and not at a different meeting.
It was one person, me, like Angie, one person. Diane, we did the same thing with one person. We have two people here, and I'm in favor, not to be against what you think, but I'm in favor of letting us think it through and doing it at the next meeting. Just because there's two people, and there's things that are gonna come up that you need to think about.
I know we did with Alder Fowler. I know we did that night, because we had three people, and we chose him after the fact.
Yeah, I
Two
remember
votes.
that as well, yeah.
So it could be done tonight. I'd be in favor
It could be,
tonight
it could be, but
because they represent my area, and I just feel it'd be good to get somebody tonight, not have them wait, but that's my opinion.
Sure.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, Tim?
I was just going to read through the questions and then go to the next person. All right, Mike, just tell us about yourself.
I've been married for 40 years, and I have 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. I worked for the Plymouth Utilities for 44 years at the wastewater treatment plant. When I got out of high school, I got an associate's degree in water and wastewater technology, and I started working for the city. I've had numerous part-time jobs over the last 40-some years. I've been involved in a lot of groups on a smaller scale than this that have entailed leadership positions, I believe. I was the parish council president at St. John the Baptist, the school athletic director, president of the Usher Society. I've been a lifetime member of the Wisconsin Wastewater Operators Association, and I was a chairperson for the Southeast region. And I worked up through the ranks in the wastewater plant. I was an operator, a lab supervisor, assistant superintendent, and I concluded with being the superintendent. My family goes back 4 generations in Plymouth. I love Plymouth. My great-grandfather owned a business downtown, Mr. Tim. My grandfather was an alderman, and my dad was a sergeant on the police department. Lately, I've been kind of getting familiar with District Number 4 and who the people I represent. And I've spoke to some of the businesses downtown and random folks that live there. And my objective is to do whatever it takes to represent my district and work with my colleagues. So I'd be a very dedicated alderman, and I hope you read my application and my resume, because that went into more detail.
Great. So you answered this a little bit. Why are you interested in the open council member position?
I've always kind of been interested in being an alderperson, but I didn't even have to do a second thought when I saw that opening. It was automatic to me that I wanted to run for that position.
Great. How has your personal and professional experience prepared you for being on the Common Council?
Well, I think my just working with different types of teams and making decisions and taking input from different people and trying to come up with a solution for everyone. And Tim, can you say that again?
Yeah, just how has your personal or professional experience prepared you for being on the Common Council?
Working for the Plymouth Utilities, I have an idea how a city works. I've been through the budgeting process at the wastewater plant. I'm very familiar with rules and regulations you have to follow, and I'm sure that takes a big precedence in the city. So I'm familiar with those types of things.
All right. What do you view as the role of a Common Council member?
A role of a Common Council member is to listen to the folks. That's how I simply look at it. I'm sure it's more than that. There's guidelines to help you make decisions, I would assume.
Sure. And then last question of the scripted ones. What do you like most about Plymouth, and is there anything you would change?
I don't know. I like Plymouth.
Sure. Good answer.
It's a great community. There's really nothing I would change.
So those are the scripted questions, so feel free,
Okay, thank
Council,
you. Let me interject with one question. First, Mike, in order to be on the council, you have to like cheese. I assume you like cheese.
Oh, yeah, but I'm trying to minimize it in my diet.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I will say that I am familiar with the cheese businesses in Plymouth, working with the plant managers. So I do have experience with working with the cheese manufacturers in Plymouth.
Okay, with that, thank you. I'll now open it up to any council member that wishes to ask any specific questions, and we'll jump in there, whoever wants to do it.
I guess
John?
one question I had was, a problem I think it's on the horizon for us is personnel issues in hiring people, attracting them to be city employees or retaining the employees we have. Do you have any thoughts or experience that you think would help you in advising the rest of the council on how to handle those things that we face?
Not off the top of my head. I retired, and then one of our employees is my successor. So we had a job opening, and we posted on NeoGov, I believe, and we had 6 good applicants. And so that really went good for us. I was not involved in the interviewing process this time around. But John, I can't really answer that question right here. No.
Anyone else? Charlie?
I always got questions. My question, and it varied between you and Randy, but what one item do you think needs to be addressed with the city, if any? Is there one item that we should be concerned about or that you know about?
I don't really have any. It would be maybe specific to the treatment plant and meeting regulations in the Mullet River something that is cropping up are PFASs in the environment. It's called a forever chemical. And that could really affect how we dispose of our sludge in the city. And the wastewater treatment plant is like a $2 million a year expense for the city. And I'd like to find ways to generate income at the treatment plant. It's possible to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you.
Our second candidate is Randy Schwer, and I'll ask Tim to go through the questions once again.
Sure. Hi, Randy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My wife and I are somewhat vagabonds. We've moved 22 times in the 50 years we've been married. And our biggest choice of all of the moves has been Plymouth. We love being in Plymouth. We share the pride that he has. And it's always, our hearts are always proud and warm here. What we can do to promote peace and warmth in this community is continuing to ripple out, and people who come to visit get it. And we deal with a lot of people who come to visit the city. I have had relationships in city government before. As the bid manager in downtown Sheboygan, I dealt with a lot of what city council needed done and efforts we were doing between the businesses and creating the business, because the two don't always go hand in hand. The businesses aren't always comfortable with what's happening at City Hall because they don't understand it, and City Hall in a lot of ways doesn't understand them. You have a bit of an advantage, and Angie understands everything very well and takes care of it well at the chamber. When I saw this opening, I've met most of you and spent time with most of you, if it's 15 minutes talking or whatever. But I love Plymouth. I share his feelings on that. I want to be involved in continuing to make Plymouth the place to be and the heart that it continues to have, that I don't think you find in a lot of places. At our house, the best thing we can say is this is as close to Mayberry as there is. And we really feel that. Everybody cares about everybody. Any questions?
All right, and you kind of answered this. Why are you interested in the open council member position? Anything additional?
I'm interested because I see a lot, and I think I bring a different view, probably from the 22 places I've lived. I bring a different view on occasion to things that aren't as simple as black and white, and try to look at the gray area that's there and listen to who and what their issue is. And I think I bring value in that form.
Great. How has your personal and professional experience prepared you for being on the Common Council?
Well, I've stood before many Common Councils, from Mobile, Alabama to here, Sheboygan and Excelsior, Minnesota. There's a lot, the key things that happen in the community and the key desire is here. And these are the people who make that decision. I'm a little disheartened we don't have the room full, because everything that you do affects everybody at some point. And we just need to know what they're doing, what they feel, and because they don't come here, sometimes we have to go to them, which I do. Living in downtown Plymouth, I go to too many of the businesses, and because of my past in dealing with businesses in the community, I get asked a lot of stuff, so I figure I might as well learn something, so I'm answering questions properly.
That's good. What do you view as the role of a Common Council member?
I think to think, listen number one, think, analyze, and be realistic on what the effort should be for a Common Council. what we know and what we don't know. And too often in business and in life, we get caught up in what we don't know, but we have to deal with it.
What do you like most about Plymouth, and is there anything you would change?
No, I think we changed the one thing that we felt needed change in downtown Plymouth, which was our building. We had it totally remodeled the past year, new siding, new everything. And for those of you who are not aware of it, we live on Mill Street, right across from Cozy Bar, which we call the problem-solving location of the community, and 24 hours a day, it seems. But the simplest way to put it is, when you're out working in your front yard and somebody yells, stop, because you're about to flip over a mattress, and somebody else stop, and they yell into Cozy Bar, and a 22-year-old kid comes running out, runs over and says to your wife, ma'am, you shouldn't be doing this, let me help you. And he flips the mattress and says, anything else I can do for you? Well, that's downtown Plymouth, and that doesn't happen everywhere. I don't think it's ever happened in any of our 21 locations prior to this. So, there you go. I think it's a matter of understanding the community, what the goals are for the community, and listening to them.
Sounds good. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. I'll ask the same question that you heard before. One of the requirements of serving on the council is that you like cheese. Do you like cheese?
I do believe I consume a minimum daily amount of cheese. And I'm an equal opportunity cheese sampler. I do it from every cheese company in the community here, because I know we have to circulate some of the 2 million pounds of cheese that goes to the city every day locally.
Yes, that's very true. Okay, thank you. Once again, if the council has questions, feel free to chime in. And John?
I'll ask the same question I asked before, is, with personnel issues, retaining and drawing employees, do you have any thoughts on that? How we can manage that situation?
I don't know, and it's one of the things I'd like to understand better. I don't know the marketing strategy in the community for expansion at all. And that comes from people wanting to live here, which if they come, they're gonna live here, and once they live here, they won't leave. I need to understand that, and that will be paramount to me, to understand how and why we should be marketing, because I've done it in the past. I've got businesses to move to downtown Sheboygan that weren't from here. And I called them and asked them to come here. And some of them drove 6 hours to get here to tell me no, or yes, or wow, I didn't know that was that nice. That was Sheboygan. I think sometimes understanding what the business that we need is and how to get it is really far simpler than we believe. At least it's been for me.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Charlie?
I do have one question for you, maybe two.
Oh, wait a minute, you get one or two, not,
Okay, I'll ask the 3-point question.
okay.
The question I have for you, what item do you believe needs to be addressed, if any, for the city of Plymouth?
I think there's communication that needs to be between the city and new businesses that are coming to the city. Because we don't have that they have to come and sign in at any time, the communication is normally launched as they are building or moving into their building. We don't have a lot, we have regulations in the community that we'd like, that they should hear about when they're thinking about it. I was lucky enough to understand most of them, and some I didn't understand, and such as grants that were available when we bought our property. I just think that as a community, we have a pretty peaceful place here. And in that, we don't campaign it enough to other people. And that's why when people do come here, and they spend an afternoon, they're not. They're not. They get treated with respect, consideration, and sometimes we need to listen to the businesses on what's happening, because that's a big part of why people come to this community. That makes sense? Okay. Anything else?
I have another question. Maybe you're gonna ask this question, but do either of you want to surmise what you didn't say? Give Mike a chance if he wants to say something that he didn't get to say, but if not, that's fine, or Randy on that basis, of something that you thought about that you might have wanted to say.
Do you have anything?
I think this is a great time in my life to get involved with the council.
And I, no matter what happens, I will want to meet Mike if he gets his position, because I appreciated his view and the commitment he had made to the city to make it what it is. So I don't have any other questions, but I just wanted to say I enjoyed listening to Mike's comments a lot.
Greg has a question?
Towards Tim and Crystal, if we take Alder Hansen's advice and we make that decision tonight, I'm not against that, but I would like to see if we could carry that over into the closed session and talk about it between ourselves and retain them outside while we make that decision.
So we're not able to have a closed session or a secret ballot in regards to the appointment of a council member.
All right. That was it.
So are you saying we can do that in closed session?
No.
Cannot, correct?
Cannot.
Cannot. That's my understanding too, yeah.
Yep, that's all I have.
Okay. Charlie?
Another question. We have two good candidates. I mean, when I saw the resumes and looked through those, and we have two good candidates, and I don't know why we need to go to the next meeting to decide. So I would like to have us vote tonight.
Sure, I think that is the discretion of the council. Crystal and I talked about it. If you guys are comfortable voting tonight, that's fine. If not, we can carry it over to the next meeting. I think that's probably your first decision here is deciding if you want to vote tonight or carry it over.
What's the feeling of the council?
Fair comment?
1 second. Do we have any other opinions you want to make, or do we just poll the council and we'll pick on Bob first since he's not here and he can't object?
Let's do it tonight.
Diane?
I have no, one way or the other.
Amy? Greg?
I would like to carry it over, but it's fine with me if we want to make a decision right on with the council.
John?
I'd say let's make a decision.
I prefer
Angie?
wait.
Charlie?
I was gonna move that we do it tonight, but we got three that said tonight and then two didn't care, and so I think we should, and one said no. So I think we should do it tonight.
Mayor, the only thing that I can think of is the fact that if people are watching and they can come back and advise us what they think, that would probably be an advantage.
Good point.
So do we,
Yeah, I think maybe, Crystal, do you think a motion on which way to proceed is the way to go, or?
I think it's on the agenda tonight as a potential selection, so certainly you don't have to take action. If a council member wishes to make a motion at this time, and certainly I would defer to you, Mayor, as the chair, but I think a motion would be in order if there's a desire to appoint tonight. Otherwise, if there's no action tonight, it'll be deferred to the next meeting.
sounds good. Chair will entertain a motion.
We have a question down there.
Fair comment?
Question or motion?
Motion.
Motion? Chair asks for a motion. Make your motion,
I move
please.
that we vote on the candidate tonight.
For lack of a second, the question dies. We will do it at the next council meeting. We'll move on. Thank you, candidates, for
could I-
participating.
Could I say one more thing to one of the candidates?
I think,
Or are we done?
I think we should move on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, candidates. Mike, you're on the agenda, so please stick around. Thank you.
Maybe one question on this, if I could. Will we have discussion at the next meeting with the candidates, or we just vote?
It'll be on the agenda for a vote. There was no intention to bring back the candidates.
No, yeah, so the candidates, they may attend because it'll be done in open session, but the intention is to
Correct.
not have a discussion with them.
Well,
But,
I'm kind of a discussion amongst us
but yes, a discussion amongst council is more than.
When we bring it up.
before we make our vote.
Correct.
Is that what you're, is
Correct.
that what Charlie's thinking?
We'll make a motion, have discussion, and vote.
Okay.
Yeah. In council,
Correct,
in public.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Moving on to item 7, ordinance number 1 of 2023, amending City of Plymouth Code Section 11-2-1 regarding the regulation of firearms. And tonight, we have Matt Starker, Deputy Police Chief, Interim Police Chief, to give us a little rundown on that. Matt?
Yep. So basically, this is just a little bit of cleanup from a state law that was passed. The state passed was called Act 71, and really the only part of this act that is going to affect this ordinance is subsection B, which would be the hunting part of it. The state now allows within the city limits bull or crossbow hunting, but there are some regulations that come with it. Again, the hunting has to take place at a distance greater than 100 yards from any dwelling, unless you are the property owner or you live within that dwelling. So basically, if you're the property owner and you want to go 20 yards outside your back door and hunt underneath your apple tree, you can. But if you are somebody who's asking permission to hunt, who doesn't reside in that residence, then it's 100 yards. Again, this is strictly for bow and crossbow, so we're talking arrows and bolts. Bolts are the shorter arrows that come out of the crossbows. And again, the hunting has to take place at an elevated position. They do not give a minimum requirement for the elevated position, so you could be 3 feet off the ground or you could be 20 feet off the ground, but they do describe that the act of shooting needs to be in a downward motion. So that's really the only change to it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance number 1.
Second, Matt Story.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Alderman Hildebrand.
Could we adapt the height to that ordinance?
I don't believe that we can adapt the height to it. I think the state law is the state law, and that kind of trumps the ordinance.
Alderman Shilsky, did you have a question?
Yeah, I couldn't understand the motion. Could you repeat it, please?
I
Hannah?
would move that we adopt ordinance number 1, amending City of Plymouth Code Section 11-2-1 regarding the regulation of firearms. Specifically bow and arrow and crossbow.
Thank you, Alderman Nelson.
Mayor
Okay.
Crystal had a,
Crystal?
And I was just gonna follow up on Alder Hildebrand's question. When the state passed this law, it was really intended to allow for hunting and promoting that recreational activity, limited to bow and arrow. So as Matt said, there's no firearm discharge allowed in the city. And as part of this law change, the state really wanted to create that uniformity amongst the various jurisdictions. What I would suggest is that the council approve this tonight, and I will certainly look into your question as to whether there are any additional parameters that the council can put into it. But for the starting point, it's that it needs to be consistent with state law.
I mean, as hunters, we know what height means and what a safe height means. I mean, 3 feet, 10 feet upwards, we know what a downward position is.
And I think,
And if we can adapt a higher foot, I would try to get the other councils to go along with that if we could adopt a higher foot.
and Mayor, if I can respond to that as well, I like the idea where you're coming from. From an enforceability standpoint, it may be difficult to see whether or not somebody's in compliance with it, but.
I think the answer is we'll check into it further, and
happy
we
to
can
check into
always
it.
modify,
Mhm.
and that's certainly adequate. Okay, any other comments? Clerk will call the roll on ordinance number 1, 2023.
Hanson.
Yes.
Matsdorf.
Yes.
Shilsky.
Yes.
Gilson.
Yeah.
Nelson.
Yes.
Odekirk.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to item 8, resolution number 1 of 2023, supporting Vibrant Spaces Grant Program submittal. I'll ask City Administrator Tim Blakesley to give us a brief summary on that.
Sure. So the city owns the former Struts Financial Building just north of Stair Junior Park. The building itself is not in good condition, has water damage, it sits in the floodway. Several years ago, there was an effort to demolish the building and turn it into a shelter, but the costs quickly kind of got out of hand. So that project was shelved. In November, staff did get some information about the new Vibrant Spaces Grant Program. It's a pilot program being offered by the state of Wisconsin. We saw the program. I heard about the Struts Financial Building. It looked like an ideal candidate if that building were ever removed. So grants in the amounts of $25,000 and $50,000 are available to help local communities. So it's worth staff's effort to put an application together to see if we can get some funding for a small pocket park project. So in the draft, or in the packet, there's a small rendering of a pocket park. This is just a concept plan. We have to have something in the grant application to be considered. So I think that the plan itself is very nice, but it'll come back to council for a final approval if we are awarded the grant. We do think our grant is actually very strong as part of the grant guidelines. Its proximity to Stair Junior Park, it would create a lasting change in the community. And make it complies with the 2022 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map. So staff does recommend support of resolution number 1, supporting the Vibrant Spaces Grant Program, and this is just a resolution supporting submittal of the grant, not actually accepting a grant.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion on resolution number 1.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move for resolution number 1, supporting Vibrant Spaces Grant Program submittal.
Second, Hildebrand.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, John.
No, I personally think this is a better use of that footprint there than trying to do something with that building, considering all the problems it has.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to resolution, item B, resolution number 2 of 2022, commendation, recognition of Mike Penquitz. I'll ask Kathy Austin, our Director of Public Works, for a comment.
So the resolution before you accommodates Mike, who served the community for 43 years. He says 44, but he served part-time for a while, so it's kind of that threshold. But so he retired last week, Tuesday. So we thank him for our service then, and I just thought this was fit for his use of service.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to, at this time, propose resolution number 2 of 2022 be adopted. Entertain a motion as such.
I'll move that we approve resolution number 2, commending Mike Penquitz for his years of service.
Second, O'Brien.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Are you prepared for this?
For what? Sure, go for it.
Charlie?
I just want to thank you, Mike, for your job you did, the wastewater plant treatment. I've visited a couple times, and your innovation of getting recycling of waste and put those to use, making probably money of that, or if nothing else, not wasting the waste some other place where it should be. So, great job in that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? John?
I had the fortune of working with Mike on some watershed stuff a few years back, and I had really never met Mike before that time, and I was just impressed with the innovation and his thoughtfulness on trying to control phosphorus, which is a problem that faces us as a city government in years to come. So it was really a joy to work with him on trying to resolve some of those issues in the watershed. So thank him for that.
Great.
I'd like to thank you also, and anytime I met you by the plant or outside, I mean, you're always talkative, always open to your questions, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, John.
Diane?
I never met Mike, but I just want to say congratulations. And it's hard to find people as committed as I understand that Mike has been through the years.
Any other comments? Clerk, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Mike, on behalf of the city of Plymouth, we have a resolution of accommodation, and we appreciate your service to the city and the community, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 9, new business. Item A, 2022 Police Department Year in Review. We have Matt Starker here, Deputy Police Chief, Interim Police Chief, for a report. Matt.
Thank you for having me. Get this in here. May 6th, following the retirement of Chief Tauschek, I took over lead of the department. January 29th of this year will be my 22nd year here, so I've seen a lot of things change within the department. Following the retirement of Chief Tauschek, I realized there were some things that worked for our department and some things that didn't. So I came in and made a couple of small policy changes to our department. So we'll just kind of go through what I have here. You'll see in 2021, the PD fielded 4,922 calls of service. That includes everything. That's traffic stops, assist, EMS calls, domestic violence calls, that's, that other stuff. You'll see that in 2022, so last year, we handled 1,041 more calls than the previous year. A lot of reason for that is we had sat down as a department and we discussed how can we improve how we do things, how can we continue to make the city safe, and we came up with a game plan. So basically the game plan was how do we reduce crime in our city. One of the things that we did was we focused on how do we deter criminal activity and how do we make offending difficult for people that feel that they want to do that. The two main focuses that we found out were A, to be more proactive, and number 2, educate the community through public events and our Facebook page. With our department, we do have a young department. Our officers are young, a lot of them are out of the academy, so we thought we would take that excitement from them and we use it towards our advantage. Sometimes they're a little too excited. But you'll see in 2021, we had 140 felony arrests. That number dropped to just 58 in 2022. You look at the misdemeanors, 289 in 21, down to 218 in 22, 71 less. City ordinance citations issued, roughly about the same. We issued 7 less than we did in 2021. Again, part of how do we deter crime is proactive patrol. You'll see that traffic citations were increased by 227 citations last year. Again, I give a lot of credit to the officers. They're out there, they're hitting the streets, they're making themselves seen. You know, we've implemented different ways how we do things. Again, we do business checks at night. You know, we're educating people, you know, lock your doors and all that other kind of stuff. So the increase of 1,041, again, is all because of the officers that are going out there and doing their job. So the city should be very proud of them. A couple of things that we did do last year is we hired a 4-legged officer. His name is Fry. He'll be a 2-year-old German Shepherd in March. Currently, Fry is attending about 27 hours of training per month. He'll be certified in tracking, area searches for humans, building searches, apprehension, and narcotic detection. One of my main goals was to take the young officers and set them up for down the road possible supervisory positions within our department. Again, we want to make the future of this department something very special. So we had 3 officers go to what's called critical incident training. It's a week-long training. Those officers are specialized in dealing with people that may suffer from mental illness, alcohol, or some kind of a drug abuse issue. In 2022, we sent 2 new officers, we sent 2 officers to FTO training. Those officers bear the weight of training all our new hires. It's a 16-week training for a new hire, so they get to know each other quite well. Our school resource officer, he attended a week-long training also. And our supervisors, including myself, have been attending what's called a Emerging Leadership Program. It's a 12-class program. Once you graduate from that, you receive a plaque that shows that you graduated from that course. Again, it's just setting the department up for future leaders. A couple of things that we did start. We started a sex offender compliance task force. What we did is we got all the information from the state, from DOJ, all the sex offenders that live within the city of Plymouth. We assigned people to that. They went and knocked on their door, made sure they were still living where they were supposed to be living, where they were work, phone numbers, and how compliant have they been with their agents. So we started that. During Halloween, we did home checks of sex offenders with probation parole. So that was another good thing that we did. We did equipment upgrades. We created a safe zone, marketplace on Facebook. If you go to the front of our PD, you'll see that we have a parking sign. Strictly, it's for internet exchanges, so it's covered under video surveillance 24 hours a day. We had an officer assigned to liquor law license checks, so every business in town has a liquor license. They were checked. With some minor education, they all became compliant. During 2022, the police department received $26,514 in grants, which we used for equipment towards the officers. And then the last thing I'll just kind of give you is we also joined what's called Neighbors. It's a program used through like Ring Doorbell to where if we have a flood of crime in a certain area in the city, we can blast out a notification. Then people who are part of this, they call it a community, they can then submit photos, videos back to us to help us try and solve crimes. We utilized this back in September. I only had several vehicle entries in the northwest portion of the community. Using those videos, we actually made several arrests based upon that information. So, other than that, I think the PD's in a good place. I think the city should be proud. I think the council should be proud of where we are. So, I don't know how many more times I'll be up here in front of you, but we'll go from there. So, any questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate the update.
I am proud.
Thank you.
I'm not the only one here, but I will definitely say that I am proud of what you've done.
Moving on to item B, I guess the question I have before I read it, Tim, is was this just a administrative change to the 31st and back to the 24th? Did we ever vote on that?
No,
That
so
we have to vote again?
We have not
Or
voted
this
on
is just
this.
information?
This would be the first time, so this would be a motion to move the January 31st meeting to January 24th to accommodate the TID 5 expenditure deadline.
Okay. So with that, item B, rescheduling the January 31 meeting to January 24th, as Tim just explained. The purpose of that, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the change from January 31st to the 24th of January.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item C, approved purchase of flatbed trailer purchase from Brunigs Incorporated in the amount of $18,475. Administrator Blakely, you want to give us a brief summary, please?
Sure, so the 2023 budget included $20,000 for the purchase of a new flatbed trailer. We received two quotes, both were below the budgeted amount, so that's good news. So we recommend the purchase as presented for $18,475.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the purchase of the trailer from, is it Brugings or Brugings?
I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how it's pronounced.
Boogies?
Buggings, Inc.?
Oh, okay.
Buggings?
Buggies? Okay.
Buggings.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Odekirk, Gilson,
Yes.
Shilsky,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item D, approved purchase of digger derrick from Altech in the amount of $367,607. Tim, you want to give us a summary on that too, please?
Sure, so this one is probably a little different than council has seen before, and this is just due to the lead times that we're dealing with products. So we are, this purchase here is actually getting us in line for a purchase in 2024. So our 2024 capital improvement program has planned $375,000 for this purchase for the electric utility. We won't actually be spending the money until 24, but if we don't get in line now, we're going to be waiting until 25. So we received 3 bids for the truck. Altech Inc. Was the low bidder at $367,607, which is great because that's below the anticipated amount of $375,000. So we do recommend a purchase of the digger derrick from Altech, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss. Alder Kirk.
I'll move that we approve the purchase of the digger derrick from Altech in the amount of $367,607.
Second, Matsdorf.
Second, Matsdorf. Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Alder Hanson.
So we're doing this 2 years out, which I'm in favor of,
Sure.
this policy and good job on that. What happens if this company would go defunct?
So we would likely have to get another quote and move forward again, yes. So my understanding from talking with our electric operations manager, Ryan, he's comfortable with this company and this quote.
Any other questions?
So this is just an estimated cost.
So this will be the cost that we pay as long as we get in line now.
Oh.
And we would make that final expense in 2024.
It's a quote.
Yep. So they will honor the quote in 2024 as long as we agree to the purchase now.
Oh.
Okay. Other questions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Odekirk,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Shilsky.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, this is the portion where we clear the room for those in attendance, and we'll come back after we have closed sessions. Chair entertains a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body which is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding claims from Walmart. Let the record show we're now back in open session. The chair will entertain a motion on action in closed session. Alder Hildebrand.
I'd like to make a motion to have the city attorney go into litigation over Walmart discrepancy on assessed value.
Second.
Which says it.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Shilsky,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Bodekirk,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Nelson.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.